Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I'm here to briefly talk about the last book I finished reading, The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. I lent my copy out, so a photo will have to suffice. This young adult novel was originally published in 2002 and won several book awards that year, including the National Book Award for Young People's Literature. It has recently regained readers' attention because the sequel entitled The Lord of Opium was released in September of this year. I purchased this book at a thrift store for $1 and knowing nothing about it. It was just a young adult book. It was in good condition, and it was $1. And like magic, it started popping up in videos all over BookTube. After seeing several of these videos and watching a couple of reviews, I was convinced to pick it up and read it myself. I must warn you, I finished this about a week ago, so my thoughts are a little foggy. But enough about me. The plot. Our main character, Mateo Alacran, also known as Matt, is a clone. We follow Matt through his childhood. Obviously, in a future world where cloning exists, but clones are treated as cattle. They are born from the womb of a cow, and once they are born, their brains are usually destroyed. But Matt is special. Early on in the novel, we find out that Matt is the clone to a rich and powerful drug lord named El Patron, who is the lord of the land of opium, which I think is supposed to be modern-day Mexico or Central America, but don't hold me to that. We follow Matt through his childhood and see the struggles that he must face, not only being a clone, but being the clone of the most powerful man around. The writing. I don't have a whole lot to say about the writing. Going into this book, I had some high expectations for it, considering that most of the reviews that I watched said something along the lines of, this book was unlike any YA book they'd ever read, it was very literary, and I just didn't have that experience. But perhaps it was my high expectations that did so. That being said, it was a very enticing read. I was supposed to be reading this book alongside a friend in real life and a YouTube friend, Lindsay Reads, which I'll link in the description below. But it was just so enticing that I couldn't stop reading. Hashtag impatient. So the writing created a great world and characters that were both interesting and captivating. But the twist, spoiler, there's a twist, wasn't that big of a surprise, and maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe there was a fair amount of foreshadowing and we're supposed to figure it out ourselves, but it's a surprise to the main character, because he's young. The characters. Again, I don't have a whole lot to say about the characters. I feel like the characters were to represent the different stances and viewpoints of approaching cloning and human rights. Naturally, the characters that treated Matt as a human being and not as an animal were considerably more likable than those that didn't, but it was understandable for those that didn't because they grew up in a society where they knew no different. Overall thoughts. I understand why The House of the Scorpion won several awards in the early 2000s. Being a young adult in the early 2000s, I don't remember encountering several books that were like this. I think it was an excellent young adult science fiction coming-of-age story that dealt with human rights. I would recommend this book to fans of Unwind by Neil Shusterman. There's another book that I would also like to recommend, but I won't because I feel that it may spoil the book. But if you're curious and want to know, and aren't afraid of being spoiled, then hit me up on Twitter at @ReadSusieRead. Oh, also, the book concluded in a way that felt like an open-ended book, which explains the sequel. But if you're more of a fan of standalones like I am, I think this book can definitely stand alone. In case you're wondering, I gave this book 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. Well, that is all that I have to say about The House of Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. As always, let me know if you've read this book in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye. Who am I, Tyler Oakley?